For heaven's sake, Julia, you're not folding those napkins properly. The shrill voice of my mother-in-law, Marian, pierced through the kitchen like a hot knife through butter. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and counted to 10 before turning to face her. Marian, I've been folding napkins for dinner parties for 20 years. I think I know what I'm doing, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. She huffed, her coiffed silver hair bouncing as she shook her head. Well, clearly not. Here, let me show you the right way. Before I could protest, Marian had snatched the crisp linen napkin from my hands and began refolding it with exaggerated movements. I bit my tongue, reminding myself that she was still grieving. It had only been 3 months since her husband Frank had passed away, and Brian had insisted she move in with us temporarily. 3 months that felt like 3 years. Mom, leave Julia alone. She's got everything under control, Brian's voice came from the doorway. I shot him a grateful look, but Marian barely acknowledged him. I'm just trying to help, dear. After all, this dinner party is important for your promotion, isn't it? Marian said, her tone sickeningly sweet. Brian sighed. Yes, but... Then we want everything to be perfect, Marian interrupted, beaming at her son. Now, Julia, about the menu, are you sure you want to serve that salmon dish? It's so... common. I gritted my teeth. The salmon is Brian's boss's favorite, Marian. We've discussed this. If you say so, dear, she replied, patting my arm condescendingly. I just hope it's not too fishy. As Marian bustled out of the kitchen, I turned to Brian, my eyes pleading. He crossed the room and wrapped his arms around me. I'm sorry, honey, I know she can be a bit much, he murmured into my hair. I pulled away, looking up at him. A bit much? Brian, she's driving me crazy. How long is temporary going to last? Before he could answer, our daughter Ivy burst into the kitchen, her pigtails flying. Mommy, Grandma says I can wear my new party dress tonight. I frowned. Ivy, sweetie, we talked about this. That dress is for special occasions, not dinner at home. Ivy's face fell, but Grandma said, I don't care what Grandma said, I snapped, immediately regretting my harsh tone as Ivy's eyes welled up with tears. Brian knelt down beside her. Hey, Pumpkin, why don't you go put on that pretty blue dress we bought last week? You look like a princess in that one. Ivy nodded glumly and trudged out of the kitchen. I sank into a chair, feeling defeated. I'm sorry, Brian. I didn't mean to snap at her. He squeezed my shoulder. It's okay. We're all under a lot of stress right now. Just then, Marian's voice rang out from the living room. Julia, did you move my antique vase? I can't find it anywhere. I closed my eyes, counting to 10 again. I'd better go deal with that, I muttered, standing up. As I walked into the living room, I froze. Marian was standing there, holding the shattered remains of her precious vase. Her eyes were blazing with fury. What have you done? She hissed. I didn't touch it, Marian. I swear, I stammered, my heart racing. She advanced on me, pieces of porcelain crunching under her feet. Don't lie to me. You've always been jealous of my things. You probably did this on purpose. Mom, that's enough. Brian's voice boomed from behind me. Julia would never do something like that. Marian's face crumpled, and she burst into tears. Oh, Brian, your father gave me that vase on our 25th anniversary. It's all I have left of him. As Brian rushed to comfort his mother, I stood there, shell-shocked. How had a simple dinner party preparation turned into this nightmare? And how much longer could I endure living under the same roof as Marian? Little did I know this was just the beginning of a storm that would tear our family apart and push me to limits I never thought possible. The morning after the disastrous dinner party, I found myself standing in the kitchen, staring at the pile of bills on the counter. My hands shook as I sorted through them, the numbers blurring before my eyes. How had things gotten so out of hand? Oh, Julia, you're up early. Marian's voice startled me. I quickly gathered the bills, trying to hide them from her prying eyes. Just getting a head start on the day, I replied, forcing a smile. Marian peered over my shoulder. Are those bills? My goodness, there are so many. Brian can't possibly be okay with all this spending. I felt my cheeks burn. Our finances are none of your concern, Marian. She clicked her tongue disapprovingly. I'm just looking out for my son's best interests. You know, when I was managing our household. Mom, please, Brian interrupted, entering the kitchen. Julia's got it under control. Marian huffed, but retreated to the living room. Brian wrapped his arms around me from behind. Don't let her get to you, honey. We're doing fine. I leaned into him, wishing I could believe that. The truth was we were struggling. Between Ivy's school fees, the mortgage, and now the added expense of having Marion living with us, our savings were dwindling fast. Actually, Brian, I started, turning to face him, I think we need to talk about our budget with your mother here. Mommy. Ivy's excited voice cut through the tension. She bounded into the kitchen, waving a glossy catalog. Look what Grandma gave me. Can we order this dollhouse, please? I took the catalog, my eyes widening at the price tag. Sweetie, this is very expensive. We can't afford. Oh, don't be such a killjoy, Julia, Marion chimed in, following Ivy. Every little girl deserves a beautiful dollhouse. I'd be happy to contribute. I gritted my teeth. Marion, we've talked about this. You can't keep buying Ivy expensive gifts. Well, someone has to spoil her, Marion retorted. Lord knows you're too busy pinching pennies to give her any treats. That's enough, Brian's voice boomed, startling us all. Mom, I appreciate your generosity, but Julia and I make the decisions about Ivy's upbringing. And Julia, can we please discuss our finances in private? Ivy's lower lip trembled. So, no dollhouse? I knelt down, pulling her into a hug. Not right now, sweetheart, but how about we make one together? We can use that big cardboard box in the garage. Ivy's face lit up. Really? Can we start now? After breakfast, I promised, relief washing over me as she skipped away. Marion sniffed. Cardboard, how quaint. I ignored her, turning back to the bills. Brian, we really need to talk about this, he sighed, running a hand through his hair. I know, but can it wait until after work? I've got a big presentation today. Before I could respond, he kissed my cheek and hurried out the door. I stared after him, feeling more alone than ever. Throughout the day, Marion's criticisms continued to pile up. She questioned every purchase I made at the grocery store, scoffed at my attempts to mend Ivy's clothes instead of buying new ones, and even had the audacity to suggest I get a real job to contribute more to the household. By evening, I was at my breaking point. As I stirred a pot of soup, our third meal of leftovers this week, Marion hovered behind me. You know, Julia, she began, her voice dripping with false sweetness, I couldn't help but notice how worn out Brian looked this morning. Perhaps if you were more frugal with the household expenses, he wouldn't have to work so hard. The spoon clattered against the pot as I whirled to face her. That's it, Marion. I've had enough of your constant criticism and meddling. This is my home, my family, and I'm doing the best I can. Marion's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed dangerously. Well, I never. Is this how you repay my son's generosity? By disrespecting his mother? Mommy? Grandma? Ivy's small voice came from the doorway. Why are you yelling? As I looked from my daughter's confused face to Marion's smug one, I realized with a sinking heart that this battle was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. I woke up with a knot in my stomach, dreading another day of Marion's constant criticism. As I padded downstairs in my worn bathrobe, I heard her voice floating from the kitchen. Honestly, Brian, I don't know how you can stand it. Your wife lounging around in that ratty old thing. In my day, we made an effort to look presentable, even at home. I froze on the stairs, my cheeks burning with humiliation. Brian's response was too quiet to hear, but Marion's shrill laugh cut through the air like a knife. Taking a deep breath, I squared my shoulders and marched into the kitchen. Good morning, I said, forcing a smile. Marion's eyes raked over me, her lips pursed in disapproval. Oh, Julia, I was just telling Brian how a little effort goes a long way in keeping the spark alive in a marriage. I bit my tongue, pouring myself a cup of coffee. Brian cleared his throat awkwardly. Mom, please. Julia works hard taking care of our home and Ivy. Of course, dear, Marion patted his hand. I'm sure she does her best. The backhanded compliment stung, but I refused to let her see how much she was getting to me. Instead, I focused on making Ivy's lunch for school. As I spread peanut butter on whole wheat bread, Marion peered over my shoulder. Oh, is that all you're giving her? When Brian was little, I always made sure he had a hot, nutritious lunch. A growing child needs proper fuel, you know? I slammed the knife down on the counter. Marion, I appreciate your concern, but I know what's best for my daughter. Well, excuse me for caring about my granddaughter's well-being, Marion sniffed. I suppose in this modern age, convenience trumps nutrition. Before I could retort, Ivy bounced into the kitchen. Morning, Mommy. Morning, Daddy. Morning, Grandma. Marion's face transformed into a mask of doting grandmother. Good morning, sweetheart. Are you ready for your big day? I frowned. Big day? Ivy's eyes widened. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Grandma's taking me shopping after school for a new outfit for picture day next week. My heart sank. Ivy, honey, we talked about this. We can't afford new clothes right now. You have plenty of nice things to wear for pictures. Marion waved her hand dismissively. Nonsense. Every little girl deserves to feel special on picture day. It's my treat. I felt my temper rising. Marion, we've discussed this. You can't keep undermining our parenting decisions. I'm not undermining anything, Marion replied, her voice sickly sweet. I'm simply being a loving grandmother, something you wouldn't understand, given your background. The room fell silent. Even Ivy sensed the tension, her small face creased with worry. What's that supposed to mean? I asked, my voice dangerously low. Marion's eyes glittered with malice. Well, dear, it's no secret that you didn't have the most stable upbringing. I'm just trying to give Ivy the advantages you never had. I felt like I'd been slapped. How dare she bring up my past? Before I could respond, Brian stepped between us. That's enough, Mom. You've crossed a line. Marion's face crumpled into a look of hurt innocence. I'm only trying to help. If you'd rather I not be involved in Ivy's life at all. No, Grandma, Ivy cried, throwing her arms around Marion's waist. I want you to take me shopping. I stood there, feeling utterly defeated. Brian shot me an apologetic look, but I turned away, unable to bear his pity. Fine, I said, my voice hollow. Take her shopping, but this discussion isn't over, Marion. As I walked out of the kitchen, I heard Marion's triumphant whisper to Ivy. Don't worry, darling. Grandma will make sure you have the prettiest dress in the whole school. I clenched my fists, a newfound determination rising within me. This woman had invaded my home, criticized my parenting, and was now trying to buy my daughter's affection. Something had to give, and soon. Little did I know, the worst was yet to come. I stood in the doorway of Ivy's room, my jaw clenched as I surveyed the chaos before me. Scattered across the floor were piles of new clothes, shoes, and toys, all with price tags still attached. In the center of it all sat Ivy, happily playing with a brand-new tablet. Ivy, honey, I said, trying to keep my voice calm, where did all this come from? She looked up at me, her eyes shining. Grandma took me shopping again. Isn't it great, Mommy? My stomach churned. This was far beyond a simple picture day outfit. I picked up a designer dress, the price tag making me wince. Sweetie, this is too much. We can't keep all of this. Ivy's face fell. But Grandma said I deserved it. She said you and Daddy worked too hard to give me nice things. Before I could respond, Marion appeared behind me. Oh, Julia, don't be such a spoilsport. A grandmother is allowed to spoil her only grandchild, isn't she? I whirled to face her. Marion, this is completely out of hand. We can't afford. You can't afford it, Marion interrupted, her voice sickly sweet. I, on the other hand, have the means to give Ivy the life she deserves. The life she deserves? I repeated, my voice rising. What's that supposed to mean? Marion's eyes narrowed. Well, dear, let's be honest. Your humble upbringing hardly qualifies you to understand the finer things in life. I'm simply ensuring Ivy doesn't suffer the same limitations. Her words hit me like a physical blow. I glanced at Ivy, who was watching us with wide, confused eyes. Ivy, sweetheart, can you go downstairs for a bit? Grandma and I need to talk. Once Ivy was out of earshot, I turned back to Marion. How dare you? You have no right to undermine our parenting or make decisions about what Ivy needs. Marion laughed, a cold, brittle sound. Oh, please, I've seen how you struggle to make ends meet. Face it, Julia, you're in over your head. Ivy deserves better than hand-me-downs and budget meals. We provide everything Ivy needs, I hissed. Love, stability, values. Things money can't buy. How quaint, Marion sneered. But in the real world, dear, money talks. And right now, I'm the one with the means to give Ivy a proper future. I felt something snap inside me. This ends now, Marion. I want you out of our house. Her eyes widened in mock surprise. Oh my, such hostility. I wonder what Brian would say if he knew how you were treating his poor widowed mother. As if on cue, I heard the front door open. I'm home, Brian called from downstairs. Marion's face twisted into a triumphant smirk. Well, why don't we ask him? She brushed past me, heading for the stairs. Panic rose in my throat as I followed her. I couldn't let her twist the situation to her advantage. In the living room, Brian was hugging Ivy. He looked up as we entered, his smile fading as he sensed the tension. "What's going on?" Marian's eyes welled with tears. "Oh, Brian, I'm afraid there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Julia seems to think I'm overstepping by buying a few things for Ivy." "A few things?" I sputtered. "Brian, you should see Ivy's room. It's like a department store exploded in there." Brian looked between us, confusion etched on his face. "Mom, we talked about this. You can't keep buying Ivy expensive gifts." "But, darling," Marian simpered, "I'm only trying to help. You work so hard, and Julia, well, she does her best, I suppose." I felt my face flush with anger. "That's it, Brian, I can't do this anymore. It's me or your mother. She has to go." The room fell silent. Brian's eyes widened in shock while Marian gasped dramatically. Ivy, sensing the tension, clung tighter to her father's leg. "Julia," Brian said slowly, "you can't be serious. She's my mother. Where would she go?" I stood my ground, my heart pounding. "I am serious, Brian. This is our family, our home, and I won't let her destroy it." As I looked at the faces around me, Brian's shock, Marian's smug defiance, and Ivy's confusion, I realized I had reached a point of no return. Whatever happened next would change our family forever, and I was ready for it. I sat on the edge of my bed, clutching the small, handmade photo frame Ivy had given me for Mother's Day last year. It wasn't much, just popsicle sticks glued together and decorated with glitter and seashells, but it meant the world to me. Inside was a picture of Ivy and me, both laughing, our faces pressed close together. It was my anchor in the storm Marian had brought into our lives. "Julia?" Brian's voice called from downstairs. "Can you come down for a minute?" I sighed, placing the frame carefully on my nightstand before heading down. In the living room, Brian and Marian sat on opposite ends of the couch, both looking tense. "What's going on?" I asked, my guard immediately up. Brian cleared his throat. "Mom and I have been talking, and we think we've found a solution to make things easier for everyone." Marian nodded, her face a mask of concern. "We know things have been difficult, dear, so I've decided to move out." For a moment, relief washed over me. Then I saw the glint in Marian's eyes, and my stomach dropped. "That's good," I said cautiously. "Where will you go?" Brian shifted uncomfortably. "Well, that's the thing. Mom's found a nice little apartment nearby, but it's a bit more than she can afford on her own, so you're going to help her pay for it," I finished, my voice flat. Marian reached out, patting my hand. "Now, Julia, I know money's tight, but Brian assures me you can manage. After all, with me out of the house, you'll save on groceries and utilities." I pulled my hand away, fighting the urge to scream. "Brian, can I talk to you in private?" "In the kitchen." I rounded on him. "Are you serious? We can barely afford our own bills, and now you want to pay for your mother's apartment?" Brian ran a hand through his hair. "I know it's not ideal, but what choice do we have? We can't kick her out on the street." "She has money, Brian," I hissed. "All those expensive gifts for Ivy, she can afford her own place." "Mom says that was the last of her savings." Brian explained, "She was just trying to do something nice for Ivy before." I cut him off. "Before what? Before she guilted us into supporting her?" Brian's face hardened. "That's not fair, Julia. She's my mother. I can't abandon her." "And what about us?" I asked, my voice breaking. "What about our family?" Before Brian could answer, we heard a crash from the living room. We rushed back to find Marian on the floor, Ivy's photo frame shattered beside her. "Mom!" Brian cried, helping her up. "Are you okay?" Marian whimpered, leaning heavily on him. "Oh, I'm so clumsy. I was just trying to look at that lovely picture of Ivy, and I must have lost my balance." I knelt, carefully picking up the pieces of the frame. My heart sank as I realized it was beyond repair. "I'm so sorry, dear," Marian simpered. "I know how much that meant to you, but really, it was just a childish craft. Perhaps now you can get a proper frame for that beautiful photo." I looked up, meeting Marian's eyes. In that moment I saw the truth, the calculated malice behind her innocent act. She hadn't fallen. She'd destroyed my precious gift on purpose. "Julia?" Brian's voice was concerned. "Are you all right?" I stood slowly, the broken pieces of the frame clutched in my hands. "No," I said quietly. I turned to Brian, my decision made. "I want her gone, Brian. Not to an apartment we pay for. Gone. Or I swear, I'll take Ivy and leave myself." The room fell silent. Brian looked shocked, Marian's face a mix of triumph and fear. and in the doorway stood Ivy, her eyes wide and brimming with tears. I knew I'd just lit the fuse on a powder keg, but I couldn't back down now. Something had to give, and I was determined it wouldn't be me or my family. Whatever came next, I was ready to fight. The tension in the house was unbearable. Brian had retreated to his study while Marian locked herself in her room, playing the victim. I sat at the kitchen table, my hands shaking as I tried to piece together Ivy's broken photo frame. "Mommy?" Ivy's small voice startled me. She stood in the doorway, clutching her favorite stuffed animal. "Are you and Daddy fighting because of me?" My heart broke. "No, sweetheart, come here." I pulled her onto my lap, holding her close. "This isn't your fault. Grown-ups sometimes have disagreements, but we'll work it out." Ivy's eyes fell on the broken frame. "Is that the present I made you?" I nodded, forcing a smile. "Yes, but don't worry, I'll fix it." Her little face scrunched up in confusion. "But I saw Grandma break it." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean, honey?" Ivy fidgeted, looking down. "I saw Grandma pick it up and throw it on the floor. She looked angry. Then she called for Daddy and pretended to fall." I felt a rush of emotions, anger, vindication, and a fierce protectiveness for my daughter. "Ivy, this is very important. Are you absolutely sure that's what you saw?" She nodded solemnly. "I'm sure, Mommy. Grandma lied." Just then, Brian walked into the kitchen. "What's going on?" I stood up, setting Ivy down gently. "Brian, Ivy has something to tell you." As Ivy recounted what she'd seen, Brian's face went through a range of emotions: disbelief, shock, and finally, anger. "That can't be true," he muttered. "Mom wouldn't." "I'm not lying, Daddy," Ivy insisted, tears welling up in her eyes. Brian knelt down, hugging her. "I believe you, sweetheart. Why don't you go play in your room for a bit? Mommy and I need to talk." After Ivy left, Brian turned to me, his face pale. "Julia, I don't know what to say." Before I could respond, Marian's voice rang out from the doorway. "Well, I certainly have something to say. How dare you turn my own granddaughter against me?" I whirled to face her. "We didn't turn anyone against you, Marian. Ivy saw what you did." Marian's face contorted with rage. "You little liar! Brian, surely you don't believe this nonsense?" Brian stood, his voice quiet but firm. "Mom, Ivy has no reason to lie. But you've been manipulating us from the start, haven't you?" Marian's eyes widened, then narrowed dangerously. "I see. So this is how it's going to be? You'll choose your wife's delusions over your own mother?" "They're not delusions, Mom," Brian said. "I've been blind to it, but Julia was right all along. You've been trying to drive a wedge between us since you moved in." Marian laughed bitterly. "Oh, please. I've only ever wanted what's best for this family. If Julia can't handle a little constructive criticism, that's hardly my fault." "Constructive criticism?" I exploded. "You've undermined me at every turn, spoiled Ivy rotten, and now you've destroyed something precious to me out of spite." "You can't prove anything," Marian hissed. "Actually, we can," Brian interjected. "I installed security cameras last month after that string of break-ins in the neighborhood. I never thought I'd need to check them for something like this, but—" Marian's face drained of color. You spied on me?" Brian shook his head, looking pained. "No, Mom. We trusted you, but now I think it's time we saw the truth." As Brian left to retrieve the footage, Marian turned to me, her eyes blazing with hatred. "This isn't over, Julia. You may have won this battle, but I promise you'll regret the day you ever crossed me." I stood my ground, meeting her gaze. "No, Marian, you're the one who's going to regret ever trying to destroy my family." The sound of Brian's footsteps returning made us both turn. He stood in the doorway, laptop in hand, his face a mask of shock and disappointment. "I've seen enough," he said quietly. "Mom, I think it's time you left. For good." As Marian's face crumpled in defeat, I felt a mix of triumph and sadness. We'd won, but at what cost? The family was fractured, trust was broken, and the road to healing seemed impossibly long. But as I looked at Brian, seeing the determination in his eyes, I knew we'd face whatever came next together. The storm wasn't over, but for the first time in months, I could see a glimmer of hope on the horizon. The silence in the house was deafening. Brian sat at the kitchen table, his head in his hands, while I paced the floor, my mind racing. Marian had locked herself in her room after Brian's ultimatum, and we could hear her muffled sobs through the walls. "What are we going to do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Brian looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. "I don't know, Julia. I never thought. She's my mother. How could she do this to us? Before I could respond, we heard a crash from upstairs, followed by Ivy's scream. We bolted up the stairs, our hearts pounding. Ivy stood in the hallway, tears streaming down her face, pointing at Marion's room. "Grandma's throwing things," she cried. Brian tried the door, but it was locked. "Mom," he shouted, pounding on the wood. "Open the door." Another crash, followed by the sound of breaking glass. I pulled Ivy close, shielding her. "Brian, we need to get in there. She might hurt herself." He nodded, then stepped back and kicked the door. It splintered open, revealing a scene of chaos. Marion stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by broken knickknacks and torn photos. In her hand, she clutched a small object I couldn't quite make out. "Mom," Brian said softly, approaching her like she was a wounded animal. "Put it down. Let's talk about this." Marion's eyes were wild, darting between us. "Talk? There's nothing to talk about. You've made your choice. You've chosen her over your own mother." I stepped forward, still holding Ivy. "Marion, please. This isn't about choosing sides. We just want what's best for everyone." She laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "What's best? You want to throw me out on the street after everything I've done for this family." "Everything you've done, I couldn't hold back anymore. You've done nothing but criticize and undermine me since the day you moved in. You've tried to turn my own daughter against me." Marion's face contorted with rage. "You ungrateful little." She raised her hand, and I finally saw what she was holding. A small, ornate letter opener that had belonged to her late husband. Brian lunged forward, grabbing her wrist. "Mom, stop! This isn't you!" As they struggled, I pushed Ivy behind me, my heart racing. Suddenly, Marion wrenched free, the letter opener slicing through the air. I felt a sharp sting on my cheek, and warm blood trickled down my face. The room fell silent. Marion stared at the blood on the letter opener, her face a mask of shock. Brian looked between us, horror etched on his features, and behind me, Ivy began to sob. "Oh, God," Marion whispered, the letter opener clattering to the floor. "What have I done?" Brian moved quickly, grabbing a towel and pressing it to my cheek. "Julia, are you okay? We need to get you to a hospital." I nodded, still in shock. As Brian guided me out of the room, I heard Marion's broken voice behind us. "Brian, I'm sorry, I didn't mean." He turned, his voice cold. "Save it, Mom. We're done here. When we get back, I want you gone. Do you understand?" Gone. As we made our way downstairs, Ivy clinging to my side, I felt a mix of emotions washing over me. Relief that the confrontation was over, fear for what the future held, and a deep, aching sadness for the family that had been torn apart. In the car on the way to the hospital, Brian reached over and squeezed my hand. "I'm so sorry, Julia, for everything. I should have seen it sooner. I should have protected you and Ivy." I squeezed back, wincing at the pain in my cheek. "We'll get through this, Brian. Together." As we drove into the night, I knew that while one chapter of our lives was ending, another was just beginning. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in months, I felt hope blooming in my chest. Whatever came next, we would face it as a family, stronger and more united than ever before. 6 months had passed since that fateful night. The small scar on my cheek had faded, but the emotional wounds were still healing. As I stood in our freshly painted living room, I couldn't help but marvel at how much had changed. The doorbell rang, startling me from my reverie. Brian appeared from the kitchen, squeezing my hand reassuringly before opening the door. There stood Marion, a shadow of her former self. Gone were the designer clothes and perfectly coiffed hair. Instead, she wore a simple blouse and slacks, her gray hair pulled back in a modest bun. "Come in, Mom," Brian said, his voice neutral. Marion stepped inside, her eyes darting nervously around the room before settling on me. "Julia," she said softly, "thank you for agreeing to see me." I nodded, my throat tight. This was the moment we'd been building towards for months, the final confrontation, the chance for closure. We settled in the living room, an uncomfortable silence hanging in the air. Finally, Marion spoke. I don't know where to begin. What I did was unforgivable." "Yes, it was," I replied, my voice steady. "You nearly destroyed our family, Marion." She flinched at my words, but nodded. "I know, and I've spent every day since then trying to understand why I did it. The therapist I've been seeing, she's helped me see how my own insecurities and fears drove me to lash out at you." Brian leaned forward. "That's no excuse, Mom. You hurt Julia. You manipulated Ivy. You—" "I know," Marion interrupted, tears welling in her eyes. I know, and I'm so sorry. I've been working hard these past months. I got a job at the local library. I've been volunteering at the senior center. I'm trying to be a better person, to make amends. I studied her face, searching for any sign of the manipulative woman who had tormented me for so long. Instead, I saw genuine remorse and a deep, aching sadness. Marian, I said slowly, I appreciate your apology. But you have to understand, trust isn't rebuilt overnight. It will take time, a lot of time, before we can even think about having you back in our lives in any significant way. She nodded, wiping away a tear. I understand. I don't expect forgiveness, Julia. I needed you both to know how sorry I am, and that I'm committed to changing. Just then, we heard the patter of small feet. Ivy appeared in the doorway, her eyes widening at the sight of her grandmother. Grandma? She said hesitantly. Marian's face softened. Hello, sweetheart. You've grown so much. Ivy looked at me, uncertainty in her eyes. I nodded, giving her permission to approach. She walked over to Marian, studying her carefully. You look different, she said. Marian smiled sadly. I am different, Ivy. I've learned a lot about being kind and respectful. I'm sorry for the way I behaved before. To my surprise, Ivy reached out and patted Marian's hand. It's okay, Grandma. Mommy says everyone makes mistakes sometimes. The important thing is to learn from them. I felt a lump form in my throat at my daughter's wisdom. Brian caught my eye, a mix of pride and love in his gaze. As Marian prepared to leave, she turned to us one last time. I know I have no right to ask this, but is there any chance someday that we might be able to start over? Brian and I exchanged a look. After a moment, I spoke. We can't make any promises, Marian. But if you continue on this path, if you truly commit to change, maybe someday we can try to build a new relationship, a healthier one. Marian nodded, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Thank you. That's more than I deserve. As we watched her drive away, Brian wrapped his arm around me. You okay? He asked softly. I leaned into him, feeling the strength of our bond. I am. For the first time in a long time, I really am. Ivy tugged at my hand. Can we have ice cream now? Brian and I laughed, the tension finally breaking. As we headed to the kitchen, I realized that this wasn't just an ending, it was a new beginning. We had weathered the storm, emerged stronger, and now, finally, we could start to rebuild. Not just our family, but ourselves. And that, I realized, was the sweetest revenge of all. Living well, on our own terms, free from the shadows of the past.
Why does this unattractive girl still reside in her parents' house? It's quite bothersome. Could you kindly vacate the premises immediately? You clearly don't belong here. Pack your things and return to your parents' house. About a month after my husband passed away, I found myself living with and caring for my mother-in-law. These harsh words were directed at me by two individuals. Did I do something wrong? I've been contributing by paying $3,000 a month for rent. However, if they view me as a nuisance, I'll leave the house as they wish. A month later, an apology came from my mother-in-law, tears streaming down her face. But apologies alone won't resolve the issue. I decided to share a surprising fact with her. It had been a year since I married her son, and we had been living in their house. My husband and I shared a love for camping and outdoor activities, quickly bonding and leading to our marriage. Now I was taking care of my mother-in-law, who had been alone since my father-in-law's passing. Her initial animosity turned into gratitude, and we built a genuine parent-child bond. My husband and I had a decent income and were giving her $3,000 a month as rent. Despite this, financial troubles arose. My sister-in-law, who didn't live with us, began making frequent demands for money. I intervened when she asked for financial help, suggesting ways to cut expenses instead. My husband, realizing the need for his sister to become more self-reliant, firmly advised her to stop depending on their parents. This created a rift, but my sister-in-law reluctantly changed her behavior regarding money matters. Since my father-in-law's passing, my mother-in-law has been more lenient with money, often granting her children's requests. However, it became apparent that my sister-in-law was exploiting this generosity, demanding larger sums of money. Taking charge of the family's finances, my husband managed the situation. One day, as I went to work, he wasn't feeling well and had gone to the hospital in the morning. At first, I believed it was just a common cold, but during lunch, my husband called, revealing that it wasn't just a cold. They had discovered cancer. The tests indicated that it was quite advanced, and he was told he had approximately a year left to live. His shocking words rendered me speechless, and panic set in as my thoughts froze. After standing still for a while, reality hit me hard, and I rushed to the hospital where my husband was. At that time, my husband still had enough strength to converse normally, but as the treatment continued, his strength diminished. After 6 months, he could hardly talk. 7 months later, struggling to breathe, my husband tried to convey something important to me. The content of his words was surprising and left me in shock. I spent several days absorbed in those thoughts, but a week later, my husband passed away. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't grasp what was happening. However, after his passing, I was busy with the funeral week and settling his affairs. Days passed, and just when I thought I could finally start coming to terms with my husband's death, an unexpected incident occurred. I have something to talk about. Is now a good time? My sister-in-law asked. Of course. What would you like to talk about? How much did you hear from my brother? Actually, I heard that a spot opened up in a very popular nursing home that's hard to get into. Why don't we consider admitting on there? My brother is no longer here, and taking care of that old lady must be a hassle for you, right? My sister-in-law's smirk about this topic made my heart clench. To bring up such a topic right after my husband's death, but looking into her eyes, I could tell she was serious. This house is too big for just that old woman. Don't you think it's a waste? If my family and I live here, you can live alone without any worries. I think it's the best choice for everyone. While my sister-in-law didn't say it explicitly, her remarks gave the impression that she had been eagerly awaiting my husband's death. The way she trivialized my husband's death and her disdainful attitude towards my mother-in-law, I couldn't tolerate it anymore. I appreciate your suggestion, but I have no intention of doing such a thing. I plan to continue living with my mother-in-law, taking my husband's place. When I firmly declined, my sister-in-law left the house in a bad mood. Originally, it seemed she viewed my mother-in-law as a convenient source of money, so her attitude was not surprising. However, I was honestly shocked by her blatant actions. Nonetheless, I had no intention of letting my sister-in-law have her way, nor did I plan to put my mother-in-law in a nursing home. But an event a week later shook my resolve. Upon returning from work, I found my mother-in-law glaring at me angrily, and my sister-in-law smirking beside her. I'm disappointed in you. I want you to leave this house. How dare you plan to put someone in a nursing home without consulting? What are you trying to do? Take over the house? No, that's not my intention. What do you mean? Why don't you just be honest? It was your proposal, wasn't it? You said to put Mom in a nursing home, sell this family home, and suggested we split the sale proceeds, didn't you? I never said such a thing. Shocked by this unexpected betrayal, I struggled to speak but managed to express my thoughts. I was genuinely taken aback, completely unprepared for such forceful tactics. Just because things weren't going her way, the pain and sadness enveloped me as my mother-in-law looked down on me as if I were worthless. I don't consider you family anymore. Please leave this house right now, she shouted at me with rage on her face. It seemed my mother-in-law had no intention of listening to me. Understood. If that's what you want, I'll leave as you wish, I responded. Perhaps my sister-in-law had influenced her, but this was a clear betrayal for me, as I had decided to continue caring for my mother-in-law in place of my husband. I quickly packed my things and decided to return to my parents' home. I needed to find a new place to live and had a lot to do, but being kicked out by my mother-in-law deeply hurt me. So I decided to rest at my parents' home for a while. About a month later, my sister-in-law accused me of withdrawing money from our parents' account without permission. Is that you? You withdrew money from our parents' account without permission, didn't you? Why is there not a single dollar left in the account? Don't say such ridiculous things. Are you calling me a thief now? Pretending you don't know. If you keep doing this, I'll get the police involved. Come to our parents' house right now. After saying this, my sister-in-law abruptly hung up the phone. Caught in someone's conspiracy and now being accused of theft, I had had enough. I had anticipated issues with the mortgage of the family home. There must still be several years of mortgage payments left unpaid. Honestly, I didn't have the time or energy to deal with my sister-in-law. I wanted to cut ties, but I had reasons why I couldn't. There was still a truth I had to reveal. With a heavy heart, I immediately headed to my in-laws' home. Just like the day I left, my mother-in-law glared at me, and my sister-in-law was there too, giving me the same look. Did you steal money from the house or withdraw it from the account? I don't know, but give it back quickly. You both were working, right? So there must be a significant balance, right? What are you talking about? There's nothing left of my father-in-law's inheritance. We've been covering all the living expenses and rent. Do you think the inheritance would cover everything? What? My words left my sister-in-law looking at my mother-in-law in surprise. It was clear that there was an understanding between the two. My mother-in-law knew that we had been financially supporting the family home, but she probably thought that my father-in-law's inheritance was sufficient for a while. However, the actual situation was quite different. Maybe in this situation, isn't my mother-in-law the victim? It was your daughter who was misusing father-in-law's inheritance, wasn't it? At that moment, mother-in-law's expression changed dramatically. There was an air of confusion, as if she couldn't grasp what I was saying. But I never lied to deceive others. The attitude of my sister-in-law made it clear that what I was saying was true. Her expression changed the moment the inheritance was mentioned, even though she had been glaring at me sharply before. I've seen through the schemes you've been plotting and the misdeeds you've been committing. Actually, my husband revealed to me that since we started living together, he took over managing the household finances. He noticed a significant decrease in the inheritance supposed to be received by my mother-in-law, and he found it abnormal. Moreover, my sister-in-law's frequent and unusual financial requests seemed suspicious to him, so he confronted her. It turned out she had withdrawn cash from the inheritance without any permission. She was actually stealing. Wait, is that true? My sister-in-law stammered in confusion. The moment I revealed the truth, my mother-in-law's anger immediately turned towards her. It seemed my mother-in-law hadn't realized the money was gradually decreasing, as she had been living modestly since my father-in-law's passing, and never paid much attention to finances. My husband, being in accounting, was aware of even minor financial changes. This misdeed came to light when he confronted my sister-in-law. Yet for my mother-in-law, her daughter remained precious, leading my husband to keep it a secret under the promise of repayment. The reason my husband sternly stopped her from borrowing money from my mother-in-law was because of this. I only learned about this a few days before my husband passed away. It was truly surprising, but it seems to be the truth. To steal someone else's money, even if they are family? What were you thinking? Can't you differentiate between what's right and what's wrong? My mother-in-law berated my sister-in-law. "Stop making excuses, you thieving cat." Her face became increasingly red with anger, as if she was about to burst a blood vessel. I am not someone who clings to money. She had a strict moral compass, especially harsh on acts of malice and betrayal. Her decision to denounce me, seeing my act of sending her to a nursing home as a betrayal, was also based on these values. These values applied not just to me, a non-blood relative, but also to her own daughter. However, I had more to reveal. Also, the large amount of money you got by betraying your family was used for gambling, right? Huh. Wait a minute, what are you talking about? My sister-in-law feigned ignorance. I've investigated everything. You'll understand if you look at these. I showed them several photos from an envelope, pictures secretly taken by my deceased husband, clearly capturing my sister-in-law entering and exiting a casino. Your husband works for a foreign company, and you should be financially comfortable. My husband always wondered why you were so desperate for money. The investigation unexpectedly revealed your gambling addiction. Tell me, how enjoyable was it to gamble with someone else's money? What is this? This is called stalking. This is no joke. You're calling others thieves, and now this. And there's something else I need to tell you, mother-in-law. It was your daughter who suggested sending you to the nursing home. You know what? Finally, I've reached this point. It's time to reveal everything and then bring this to a close. My sister-in-law's true nature, previously unnoticed, was revealed through this incident. This should make my mother-in-law realize that blaming me was a mistake. Additionally, my mother-in-law was also manipulated by my sister-in-law's schemes. With the truth out, she should understand my position. I'm not sure if this will be conclusive evidence, but I want you to see this. I said, presenting my mother-in-law with the text messages between me and my sister-in-law. The history showed my sister-in-law sending me numerous links and nursing home suggestions, serving as evidence of her scheming. Were you really planning to abandon your own mother? That's not it. It's all a misunderstanding. Please, just listen to my side of the story, my sister-in-law pleaded. It seems you plan to kick my mother-in-law out and live here with your family, right? This house isn't that old. It's still perfectly livable. Who was it that was thinking only of themselves, trying to take everything? Can you think about it calmly for a moment? As I spoke, my mother-in-law seemed to grasp the situation. She then looked at me sadly, as if she knew what she did was wrong, and turned her angry voice towards my sister-in-law. How selfish can you be to repay kindness with betrayal after all this time thinking of you as family? How do you see me? Don't mock me. Wait, just listen. There's a huge reason for this. At that moment, a loud noise echoed from the hallway, and footsteps followed as my sister-in-law's husband entered the room. Sorry I'm late. Caught in traffic. It's okay. Oh, mother-in-law, I hadn't told you yet, but I asked him to come. I left the house key open so he could enter at any time. Surprised by the sudden appearance of my sister-in-law's husband, both were taken aback. I explained the situation, and they quickly understood this issue wasn't just between me and my mother-in-law. It also affected my sister-in-law's husband. My sister-in-law's husband could easily access his salary and savings, raising further suspicions as she had been embezzling my mother-in-law's money. I had spoken to him in advance and arranged for him to hear the conversation via phone. I've been listening from the start. Enough with the excuses. Just admit your mistakes already. That's despicable. What you've done is a serious crime. I was shocked when I checked the bank account earlier. It was a big mistake to let you manage our finances. The atmosphere froze in an eerie silence due to the incredible anger of my sister-in-law's husband. Having said all I wanted to say, I decided not to intervene further and just silently watched my sister-in-law's husband lecture her. His reprimands were so intense that it made me tremble just watching, but I didn't feel bad for her at all. I only thought about ensuring she repays the money and that she shouldn't assume this would be the end of it. The lecturing continued for a while, and eventually she knelt down to apologize to both me and my mother-in-law before leaving. According to my sister-in-law's husband, he had left the management of their household finances entirely to her, thinking they were saving and increasing their savings by cutting back on expenses. However, it turned out she was gambling away all the money saved. As her gambling intensified, she eventually incurred debts on her credit cards and began stealing money from my mother-in-law to pay it off. The total amount she owes from various sources is now more than what she has stolen from her husband and mother-in-law. Her husband, upon learning about this, decided to divorce her, but plans to make her work to repay the full amount for the money she stole and the child support she misused. Until then, he had no intention of divorcing her and was constantly monitoring her behavior, hoping for her to change herself. It seems tough days are ahead for my sister-in-law. Later, my mother-in-law apologized to me for the misunderstanding, and we still meet for tea about once a month. Now that my husband has passed away, I want to maintain a good relationship with her, the mother who gave birth to him, and support her to the end. You're useless. You can't even handle the chores or take care of the kids, let alone pay the alimony. Kyle had finally shown up at the hospital 3 weeks after my traffic accident, spouting these harsh words without showing any concern for me as I lay there in the hospital bed. At first, I had hoped Kyle came to visit me out of concern, but he proved to be a letdown. I sighed deeply. To be honest, I had already been thinking about getting a divorce. I didn't expect Kyle to bring it up now, but I guess I should be thankful. It saved us both some trouble. Fine, I agreed quickly, which surprised Kyle. Little did he know, I was already one step ahead. I wanted to tell him that I knew what he was planning and was silently laughing at him in my head. My name is Sarah. I'm a 40-year-old housewife living with my husband Kyle and our 7-year-old daughter Lisa. Kyle and I met during a group blind date and got married when I was 30. He was easy to talk to, and eventually I fell for him, and we started dating. Kyle was charming and the most handsome man at the table when we first met. When he expressed his interest in me, I felt flattered and proud. Kyle was incredibly romantic in our early days. He would surprise me with dessert plates and bouquets at fancy restaurants for my birthdays, take me on trips for our anniversaries, and write heartfelt letters at just the right moments. I felt so lucky to have him and eagerly accepted his marriage proposal, imagining a life full of surprises and excitement even after marriage. But once we were married, things took a turn. Hey Sarah, my dinner isn't ready yet. I've been working all day, and you can't even have dinner prepared when I get back. You're so lazy. Once married life began, he started demanding, like he was the master of the house, and I was supposed to be his caretaker. At first, I was shocked by the change in him. I thought he was just joking. When we were dating, we used to laugh at each other's silly jokes. We imagined a sweet newlywed life where we called each other by cute nicknames and stayed lovey-dovey even after having kids. But it turned out he wasn't joking at all. He treated me like a servant or something even worse. At first, I would laugh it off, thinking he was joking, but gradually I realized he was serious. He really saw me as his caretaker, and that was frightening. After we got married, I had to quit my job, and we depended on the money Kyle earned. I was scared that if I didn't do as he said, he might cut me off financially, so I felt trapped. Honestly, Kyle's income wasn't great. I was making more when I was working. Kyle only finished high school and jumped from one job to another. His unstable work history continued, quitting jobs every year or two. It seemed Kyle felt insecure about his background and took out his frustrations on me. "I'm sorry I got delayed with some errands," I told him once. "Don't make excuses. Just hurry up and make it," Kyle replied, sitting down with a cold beer. This had become a common scene, but each time I sighed and started cooking. My marriage made me miserable, but I managed to get by. The following year, our daughter Lisa was born, and my days became a series of struggles. As expected, Kyle didn't help much with Lisa. However, he would spoil her by buying her candy or toys she wanted. I tried to raise Lisa properly, so I scolded her when needed, which made her cling to Kyle even more. "Lisa, you like Daddy, don't you?" Kyle asked her once. "Yeah, Daddy is cool." "I love Daddy," Lisa replied. "I knew it, I'm super dad," Kyle said, looking at me smugly. It was frustrating, but I couldn't help feeling glad that Lisa loved her father. I just sighed again. Despite his spoiling her, Kyle never attended any of Lisa's kindergarten events like sports festivals or recitals. You know, there's a parent-child race at Lisa's sports festival. "Could you participate?" I asked him. "Huh? Why me?" "You're free that day. You do it," he responded. "I'm busy with work every day, but the sports festival could be a great time for us to bond as parents. It's on a holiday, so you won't have to work," I said to Kyle. "Shut up. We're already close enough. Maybe you should work on your relationship with Lisa. She thinks you're mean, you know." "You might want to fix that," Kyle said, laughing as he left for work. Calling himself a super dad, yet he never showed up to school events. I was worried that Kyle's habit of being easy on himself, but hard on others, might influence Lisa. He continued to leave all the housework and childcare to me and was lazy at home. Now Lisa is 5 years old and ready to start elementary school, but Kyle was still jumping from job to job. He had just quit his factory job last month and moved to a food and beverage company. "I'll be working weekends at my new job since it's in the food industry," he said. "Looks like we'll hardly see each other then," I replied. "Can't be helped. It's work," Kyle said. Honestly, I was relieved because I was tired of Kyle ordering me around on weekends. Now I wouldn't have to be nagged by him to clean the floor or serve meals quickly. But if Kyle was out on weekends, Lisa would be sad. "It's better for kids to spend holidays with a whole family," I said. "I have work, so please let Lisa know," Kyle replied. I couldn't really argue with Kyle, since he was the one bringing in the money. Reluctantly, I went to tell Lisa. "I'm sorry, but Daddy won't be able to go out with you on his day off," I said. I thought Lisa would be upset, so I told her with a frown. However, contrary to my expectations, Lisa seemed unconcerned. "It's okay. If you're okay with it, then it's fine. You know he's not going to be here on all weekends, right? Daddy has been smelling strange lately," she said. "A strange smell?" I asked, puzzled. Lisa nodded and went back to her room. What on earth was she talking about? I've been so busy with housework and taking care of our child that I hadn't noticed much about Kyle lately. Our marriage was not like it used to be, and I tried to avoid being around Kyle to keep things calm. The strange smell Lisa mentioned might be from the factory, I thought. Factories often use special solvents, so it made sense that Kyle could come home with a weird smell. If that was the case, the smell would probably go away soon. Kids are really honest, which is what makes them so endearing. Despite what he said, Kyle started leaving the house early in the morning, even on his days off, which was odd. He also left every weekday. If he was working weekends, he should have a day off during the week. He left without saying anything to me, so I couldn't tell if he was going to work or not. I became curious about what he was doing, leaving so early even on his days off. One day, I asked Kyle, "You seem to be going out every day off. What are you doing?" Kyle looked confused for a moment, then answered in an annoyed tone while scratching his head, "I'm working. I go to work voluntarily." "Really? But you should take care of yourself, or your body won't hold up," I replied. "Shut up. Don't complain about my job," Kyle snapped back. I didn't understand why he got so angry when he often complained about my housework and child rearing. I didn't believe what Kyle said. There's no way he, who usually avoids trouble, would go to work voluntarily on his days off. I knew this from watching him closely over the years. If he was that passionate about work, he would have stayed at his previous job longer. I also started paying attention to the strange smell that Lisa mentioned. Indeed, Kyle came home with a sweet, strong fragrance. This strange smell was not from the factory. Why hadn't I noticed this before? I blamed myself for being so naive and vowed not to make the same mistake again. From then on, I decided to watch Kyle more carefully, especially on weekdays when he said he was going to work. He seemed to wake up an hour earlier than usual and took extra care grooming himself. He appeared to be in a good mood on those days, which varied from week to week, sometimes being on a Monday, sometimes on a Thursday. But it was clear that Kyle was happy on those days. When he left the house, I went into his room to look for any clues. I felt like a detective searching a house. Since I always cleaned Kyle's room, I knew it well and didn't feel bad about snooping around. If Kyle had hidden anything, it would be in a place not easily seen. I searched carefully under the desk and bed. Finally, hidden in a candy tin in the closet, I found a bunch of letters. What were these? All the letters were from the same person named Patricia. They had been sent through the mail. The oldest letter was from 4 months ago, and the newest was from yesterday. As I read the letters, I saw phrases like, "I regretted when we broke up, but now I really love you, and I want to go back to the time when I was with you." It sounded like something a lovesick teenager would say. At first, I thought maybe Kyle's ex-girlfriend was sending these letters on her own, but then I read a line that worried me. "I'm glad you like me again. I'm looking forward to our next date." This was from last week. It looked like Kyle was seeing Patricia. Today, he was definitely up to something. I took photos of the letters with my smartphone as evidence. I thought about taking the letters, but I didn't want to make Kyle suspicious. Even with these letters, I felt I didn't have enough proof. After thinking it over, I decided to hire a private investigator to check on Kyle. 3 weeks later, the investigator gave me the results quickly. He brought photos of Kyle and Patricia close together in the park at night, and even a recording of them saying, "I love you" to each other. I accepted the facts calmly. With solid proof in hand, I went to the municipal office and came back with a divorce form. Now that I knew Kyle was cheating, I had no reason to stay with him. I planned to confront him with the divorce papers the next time something happened. I returned home and let out a deep sigh. I was acting resolved, but honestly, I was heartbroken. I was upset with myself for having married someone as careless as Kyle. I was thinking about resting a bit before making dinner when my phone rang. "Hello." "Yes, Sarah. Do you have time to talk?" "Yes, what's going on?" I was surprised to get a call from my father. He usually doesn't call me. "Actually, your mother and I were talking yesterday, and we're thinking about transferring our assets to you soon." "Huh? What happened?" My father ran a company that sold imported goods to Japanese corporations. I was the daughter of a big company president, but I never told Kyle about this. I thought it would make me sound boastful, especially since Kyle jumped from one job to another. We're getting old and thinking about retiring. We thought about keeping the company going, but didn't want to push it onto you, our only daughter, so we've decided to step back. I see. I felt guilty about not taking over the company, but my parents respected my decision and had planned for the future. I was touched by their thoughtfulness. We're thinking of handing over our assets to you. Our total wealth is $17 million, but we're fine with just $3 million. We've decided to give you the remaining $15 million. What, $15 million? I was shocked. That was more money than I could ever imagine earning in my lifetime. Yes, there will probably be inheritance tax, but you'll still have plenty left. You won't have to worry about living expenses for the rest of your life, Dad said. Thank you. I expressed my deepest gratitude to my father and mother and hung up. Soon $17 million would be coming my way. With that money, I wouldn't have any worries, even if I divorced Kyle. No offense to him, but he probably couldn't earn that much. I felt relieved and was in a daze for a while. I glanced at the clock. It was 6:00 p.m. I realized I needed to make dinner and checked the fridge, but there were no groceries left. I got ready to go shopping at the supermarket. My heart was light, but I also felt a sense of urgency that Kyle might come home soon. As I was hurrying across the last crosswalk to the supermarket, the light turned green. Watch out, someone yelled, but it was too late. My body was already in the air, and then I hit the ground hard. A sharp pain shot through my head, and without understanding what had happened, I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was lying on a hospital bed. The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes were my parents and Lisa. Sarah, thank goodness, Mom said. Lisa was crying next to me. I gently stroked her head. You were hit by a car and broke both legs. They say it will take 5 months to fully recover. 5 months. I felt dizzy thinking about being out of action for so long. From that day on, I was stuck in a wheelchair. Although the nurses took care of me, I felt frustrated and annoyed because I couldn't use my legs. During my stay in the hospital, my parents and friends visited me. My parents were taking care of Lisa now, since Kyle was always at work. I thought that was better for her. I was glad everyone visited, but Kyle never came. I started to doubt his care, thinking, aren't we husband and wife? However, 1 week after I was hospitalized, Kyle finally showed up. Hey, feeling good? Kyle asked sarcastically. Yes. Man, it's a mess at home without me, I replied lightly. Kyle always complained about my housework as soon as he spoke, showing no empathy. I sighed, thinking he would be at least a little worried about me. What can I do? I was in a car accident, I snapped back. Kyle looked at me with disdain and said, you're useless if you can't do housework or take care of the child. That's the worst, and you should pay alimony. He said such horrible things to his hospitalized wife. Initially, I had hoped Kyle came to visit out of concern, but he was still disappointed. I sighed deeply. Honestly, I had been thinking about getting a divorce myself. I hadn't expected Kyle to bring up divorce today, but it saved me the trouble of arguing. Sure, I said, and Kyle looked surprised when I agreed. Unfortunately, I know what you're up to, I wanted to say, laughing inside. Here's a divorce notice. I took out a filled-in divorce form from a bag that my mother had bought and held it in front of Kyle's face. You already had this. Kyle was briefly confused, his eyes wide, but then he took the divorce notice from me and filled in his name and address right there. I felt relieved knowing I wouldn't have to see Kyle's face ever again. I wanted to tell him the feeling was mutual, but I just watched him leave silently. Probably Kyle will remarry Patricia after the divorce. I don't know what kind of woman Patricia is, but it's sad to think she's going to marry someone as controlling and unpleasant as Kyle. I feel a bit guilty about Lisa, but deciding to leave was something I had thought about a long time ago. I promised myself I would take good care of Lisa. A month after Kyle left, my life was peaceful. The time without my husband nagging me felt like heaven. I was released from the hospital and started physical therapy. I decided to stay at my parents' house until my leg healed. My parents were angry at Kyle when they learned about the divorce, but they stopped pressing the issue when I told them I wanted to forget about him. Lisa doesn't seem lonely even without her father around, and is going to elementary school happily. In the end, Lisa also noticed Kyle's domineering behavior and probably doesn't see him as a father anymore. I was convinced that divorcing Kyle was the right decision, but one afternoon I got a call on my mobile phone. I ignored it when I saw Kyle's name, but the phone kept ringing nonstop. Eventually, I answered the call. "Hey Sarah, when are you coming back?" Kyle's words made no sense to me, and he sounded like he was about to start yelling. "What do you mean, coming back? You were married to Patricia, didn't you?" I replied. When I mentioned Patricia's name, Kyle sounded surprised and exclaimed, "How do you know that?" "Did you think I didn't know you cheated? That's why I asked for alimony and child support." "Yes, that's right, but alimony and child support. I can't pay that. Why do I have to pay alimony anyway? You never did the housework. You should be the one to pay," Kyle argued. I was shocked to hear Kyle's argument. I had asked for alimony and child support through a lawyer, but he hadn't paid yet. I knew Kyle didn't have a lot of money, but he should find a way to pay. Yet here he was, saying something ridiculous like, I should be the one to pay alimony. "I noticed your affair and gathered evidence." "Did you see it from the lawyer?" It seemed that Kyle had already seen the evidence from the detective agency. That would make things easier, but him calling me was ridiculous. I wanted a divorce even before I found out about the affair because you never helped with housework or childcare, and you complained all the time. I'm not your housekeeper, you know. But it's good you're married now. You have someone else to look after you. But here's the thing. Patricia can't do housework. Before we got married, she said, leave everything to me. But once we got married, her cooking was terrible, and she didn't clean. I would have been better off with you. Marry me again. After all, you don't have any money, right? Lisa liked me too, didn't she? Kyle said, which annoyed me. What are you talking about? You divorced me and remarried. You're her partner, not my responsibility. And sorry to say, Lisa doesn't like you, and I have money. Don't lie to me. There's no way you have money. You are a housewife. You can't live without me. I had no intention of telling Kyle about the fortune I inherited from my parents, but faced with his aggressive attitude, I had no choice but to reveal it. My parents are CEOs. Recently, I inherited their assets. It's around $52 million in total, so I can live without working for the rest of my life. I could almost visualize Kyle gaping on the other end of the phone as he heard about this fortune. You're lying. There's no way you have such a huge amount of money. It's true. If you want, I can have my parents tell you. With that, Kyle finally seemed to believe my words and fell silent. Then he suddenly yelled, if it's true, why didn't you tell me? Well, I wanted to tell you, but I knew about your affair, and I thought the worst of you, so I thought it didn't matter. At that point, I hadn't yet inherited the assets, and there was no issue of property distribution. Kyle bit his lip in frustration. He probably never imagined I had such assets. He must be regretting that he ever divorced me. but I didn't want to suffer his terrible behavior anymore. Can I hang up now? Please pay the alimony properly, reflect on your actions, and never call me again. Goodbye. With that, I hung up the phone. I immediately blocked Kyle's number so he couldn't call anymore. Mom, who are you talking to? Lisa walked into the room and asked curiously. Just a friend, I replied. But Lisa, do you want to go to the amusement park this weekend? Yes, Lisa smiled happily. Seeing her smile reminded me that her happiness was all that mattered to me. A few days later, I heard that Kyle had broken up with his new wife, Patricia. They argued because she wouldn't do housework, and Patricia ended up leaving him. Kyle, having been divorced twice in a short time, would probably find it hard to get married again. I hoped he would stay single for a while to prevent more people from getting hurt. After the divorce, Kyle lost his motivation and quit his job at the restaurant. He would probably find another job, but it might take him some time to get his life back on track. I felt a bit sorry for him, but his problems were his own doing. I blocked his calls so he couldn't ask me for money, and I avoided places where we used to go together. In my life, Kyle had virtually disappeared. Eventually, Kyle paid the alimony but ended up in debt. I don't know how he'll manage, but I hope he learns from his mistakes. I'm still living comfortably at my parents' house. They told us we could stay as long as we like. After my legs fully healed, I started part-time work at a local flower shop. Even though I don't need to work, I find it better to be active and leave the house. I work hard on weekdays and spend weekends having fun with Lisa and my parents. I feel more joy in life than before and want to keep living happily with the people I love. I cherish these happy moments, especially when I see Lisa's smile. How can you go on a business trip abroad if you don't have a job? Aren't you embarrassed to lie like that? It's not a lie. I really am going overseas for work, I said. Well, then we're getting divorced, he said and walked out of the room. To him, it seems like working from home means I'm just being lazy and not really working. But I have a steady income and even help pay for our living expenses. Still, he doesn't see it that way. A few days after I got back from my business trip, I found divorce papers on my desk, already signed by him. If he can't understand me after all this time, there's no point in staying married, is there? So I signed the papers and went to the court. My name is Kelly Clarkson, and I'm 31 years old. My husband, Eric, is 34. We started dating in college and got married when I was 26. We were more like best friends than romantic partners, always speaking our minds. Sometimes that's good, but it can lead to unexpected problems. For me, the problem started when I talked to him about my dream. I've always wanted to run an online store selling imported goods. I got the idea while working part-time at a boutique as a student. I love foreign designs and was drawn to the unique items I saw there. After college, I aimed to open my own store, so I became a full-time employee at the boutique. Even with a full-time job, I couldn't give up on my dream. I really want to have my own shop filled with my favorite foreign goods and deliver them to customers, I told him. My parents and friends were supportive, saying things like, "Good luck," and "You'll surely succeed." I thought Eric would understand and support my dream too. I tried to bring up the topic with Eric when he got home from work. "Hey Eric, you know I've been talking about opening my own shop for a while. What do you think about that?" "Oh no, not this again. It won't work if you do it just like that." "You should give up," he replied. "Why would you say that? It's not just a sudden idea. I've been thinking about it for a long time. Impossible is impossible. Life isn't as easy as you think," he said. "There's no need to be so harsh. Why do you always shut down my ideas right away? I said, raising my voice unintentionally. Eric looked at me with cold eyes and a scornful expression. Then tell me, what's your plan if this idea of yours doesn't succeed? He asked. Well, I know it won't be successful right away, but... And what about your income until then? We're splitting the rent and living expenses now, and you're telling me I have to cover it all. He interrupted. No, that's not what I mean. I have some savings for the initial costs, and I'll still pay the rent. Oh, really? Then do whatever you want. But if it doesn't work out and you regret it, it's not my problem, he concluded. Every time I talked about starting my own business, Eric always got upset. The reason was simple. He worried my income would become unstable. The import shop where I worked was in a good location, and we had a lot of customers. Because of that, my income was pretty high, almost the same as Eric's, who worked in an office. It might even be a bit higher. That's why I often paid for meals when we went out and sometimes paid a bit more for the rent. The idea of my income going down was something Eric just couldn't accept. At first, he would say things like, "Why rush things?" Or "You should take your time and prepare," in a kind voice. But now, he didn't mind hurting my feelings. Even so, I didn't give up on my dream of having my own shop, no matter how much Eric was against it. I focused on making my dream come true. As a result, I overcame his objections, and at the age of 27, I started an online boutique. At first, just like Eric predicted, it was hard to get things going smoothly. But over the years, I tried all sorts of strategies. I used the advantages of an online shop by outsourcing to well-known e-commerce companies, promoting on social media, and doing everything I could to succeed. Thanks to these efforts, a year after starting my own business, things began to look up. I was able to make a steady income, expanded my customer base, and added more products. Now my yearly sales have reached $600,000. Because Eric was so against my business, I never talked about the sales. I figured he wouldn't care anyway, and he never asked. But he always reminded me about paying the rent and other living expenses. I always just gave him the money he asked for without making a big deal. I kept our conversations about work as simple and non-controversial as possible. But then, one day, something happened. I got a message on my online shop's direct messages. "I'm a regular customer of your shop. I was wondering, in addition to the international knickknacks, could you also sell furniture?" Actually, many customers had asked me to sell furniture too. But unlike small items, selling furniture online is more complicated. Furniture is more expensive, and things like the material are important. Even though I had worked in an import shop before, there are risks in buying and selling furniture without seeing it first. So I decided to call my old boss from the import shop to talk about it. "Hello, is this the manager? I have something I want to discuss with you." As soon as the manager Rachel recognized my voice, she sounded really happy. "Kelly, it's been a while. If there's anything I can help with, just let me know." Well, I've had some requests to sell furniture in my online shop. Furniture? That sounds like a big task. I was thinking of checking out the actual items before selling them. How did you find your products, Rachel? I see what you mean. I can definitely help with that. Rachel, who had connections with suppliers from other countries, offered to contact one of them and arrange for them to provide furniture for my shop. Because of my good relationship with Rachel, the overseas supplier was willing to help. I decided I would travel abroad to find the furniture. However, I couldn't just leave without telling my husband. So that night, I brought up the topic with Eric. "Eric, about the week after next, would it be okay if I were away for about a week?" "A week? Why so long?" he asked. Well, I might have to go abroad for work with Rachel from the shop I used to work at, I explained. Abroad? If you're going to lie, at least make it believable, he said, sounding mocking. What? I asked, confused. He pointed at me with a mocking look on his face. You're going overseas for work. You're almost unemployed. What are you even talking about? Wait a minute, you know I run an online shop, right? This trip is to find new items for the shop, I tried to explain. So you think I'll just believe you if you say it's for work? Are you stupid? Your little shop won't get you far. Think what you want, but our sales are good and our customers are growing. This trip is because a customer requested it. I insisted. If you keep pushing, I won't allow you, practically a shut-in, to leave home for a whole week, he said, then stomped off to the bathroom with a beer in hand. A deep sigh escaped from my lips. Why can't he try to understand? His reaction is too harsh just because he doesn't approve of my work. But I can't go abroad without his permission. I need to convince him, no matter what. Even though I was nervous to bring it up again, I couldn't ignore the problem. The next day, when he came home from work, I spoke to him again. Eric, about yesterday's discussion. Look, I'm tired. I don't have time for your lies. He cut me off. I'm only telling the truth. An unemployed person going on a business trip abroad. You're good at lying, he said, mocking me again. I'm not lying. I really have to go abroad for work, I said, grabbing his arm and pleading with him. He looked down at me, mocking me again. Oh, really? Then liars get divorced too. Divorced? What are you saying? I can't stand liars, especially people like you who always try to show off. I didn't mean. Shut up. You just want to use a lame excuse to go on a vacation abroad. I bet your boss is a man too, right? Divorce. I'll make sure to demand my share of everything, he said, storming out of the room. At that moment, a furious rage built up inside me. Who does he think he is, looking down on me like that? I work from home, but he only wants to feel superior. Enough is enough. If he wants it that way, then I'll do what I want. So I stopped asking for his permission and decided to go on my business trip abroad as planned. 3 weeks later, I went overseas with Rachel. We went straight to our suppliers in the U.S., where we checked out the furniture and accessories I would sell in my boutique. Since I was already abroad, I spent the last day sightseeing with Rachel, and we had a great time. However, it wasn't all easy. My phone was filled with angry messages from Eric. You didn't really go overseas, did you? Get back here now. I'll forgive you if you return today. Time's up. We're getting divorced, you worthless woman. Every message made me more annoyed, but I didn't reply. I knew that responding would only make things worse. When I get back, if he's willing to talk, we'll discuss it then. With that decision, I enjoyed a carefree week abroad. The business trip ended, and I said goodbye to Rachel at the airport. I started my journey home. Facing Eric was awkward, but I prepared myself and opened the front door. I'm home, I called out. The house was dark, and no one greeted me. As I walked into the living room, I saw laundry scattered on the floor. Used dishes and instant noodle containers were piled up in the sink. Amid this mess, I noticed a piece of paper on the desk. What is this? I thought. It was a filled-out divorce paper. Beside it was a rough note that said, "To the cheating, jobless woman, I'm ending things with you. Fill out the divorce papers immediately. If you want forgiveness, come to my parents' house, then I'll reconsider." Just reading the note, I could imagine Eric's smug face. He probably thinks that by writing this, I'd rush to apologize. Of course, I had no intention of doing that. I signed the divorce papers that Eric had left for me and went straight to the state court. Everything went smoothly, and the divorce was accepted without any problems. After that, I went to a real estate agent to cancel my lease on the apartment. This apartment was where I lived when I was single. When Eric and I decided to live together, he moved in because it was spacious enough for both of us. We had talked about moving to a bigger place if we had kids, but now that wasn't going to happen. Once I finished canceling the lease, I went back to the apartment and immediately started packing my things. The next day, I arranged for my belongings to be sent to my parents' house. I also made arrangements to have Eric's things sent to his parents' house. During this time, Eric kept sending me messages full of angry demands and accusations. "Stop being stubborn and come apologize now. You have until the end of the week," and messages like that. I ignored all of them. I continued to pack and send everything from the apartment, both mine and Eric's, to our respective parents' homes. After the apartment was empty, I went back to my parents' home. A week later, my phone kept ringing nonstop. Even though I ignored it, the calls wouldn't stop. So I decided to answer the phone, planning for this to be the last time I talked to him. I pressed the answer button. "Hello." Immediately, Eric started shouting, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Surprised by his loud voice, I pulled my phone away from my ear. I decided to record the call just in case something happened. Then I spoke again. "What's the big deal? There's nothing left to talk about. Don't mess with me. Why were all my things sent to my parents' house? I just got to the apartment, and it's completely empty." "Oh, that? Well, I canceled the lease on the apartment, so I sent your things to your parents' house." "What? You didn't even talk to me about this," he yelled. "There was no need. You were so sure about the divorce, so I made my own plans. I didn't think you would want to stay in the apartment that was under my name," I explained calmly. "You had no right to touch my things." He shouted angrily. "Actually, I did. You left the divorce papers and made it clear you wanted out. I just took care of the rest," I replied. Eric was silent for a moment, probably thinking about what to say next. Then he finally spoke again. "You're just trying to make yourself look good. You always do this. You never cared about what I wanted. Eric, you called me a cheating, jobless woman. You wanted a divorce and didn't care to talk things through. Now I made the changes you wanted. There's no point in dragging this out," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Dragging this out? You moved all my stuff without my permission. You didn't even give me a chance to decide." He raged on. "You had a chance. You chose to end things abruptly and left me with no choice but to take action. You said you couldn't stand me and wanted a divorce, so I took care of everything," I responded. Eric was silent for a moment, probably thinking about what to say next. Then he finally spoke again. "You're just trying to make yourself look good. You always do this. You never cared about what I wanted." I took a deep breath and said, "Eric, I've always tried to be understanding and support you, but you made it clear you didn't respect me or my work. I'm not going to argue about this anymore. The decision is final. What about all the memories? What about everything we shared?" he asked, his voice softer now. "Memories are just that. Memories. We can't live in the past. You made a choice, and now we have to move forward. I wish you the best, but I'm moving on," I replied, trying to stay strong. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then Eric finally said, "Fine. Do whatever you want, but don't expect me to come crawling back to you." "I don't." "Goodbye, Eric," I said and hung up the phone. I felt a mix of relief and sadness wash over me. It wasn't easy to end things this way, but I knew it was the right decision. I took a deep breath and looked around my parents' house, feeling a sense of comfort and support. It was time to start a new chapter in my life, free from the negativity that had held me back for so long. I canceled the lease, so I had to move everything out. What? Canceled? How could you do something like that on your own? Eric shouted, sounding shocked and angry. The apartment was in my name. I can do whatever I want with it, I said calmly. At this point, I had nothing left to lose. His words didn't affect me at all, and I responded in a defiant tone. Eric's irritation was evident on his face. Don't mess with me. I don't care about the lease. We were married, remember? I lived in that apartment too, and you just went ahead and canceled it without even talking to me. Married? Yes. But whether you think I cheated or not, we're still married. Canceling the lease on our apartment without discussing it with your husband? What were you thinking? You think you can just do whatever you want even though you're unemployed? I'll never forgive you for this. He continued to yell, showing no regard for my feelings or my situation. His rant made it clear he didn't care about me or my perspective at all, so I decided to tell them the truth. Sorry to burst your bubble, but you're getting all worked up about not forgiving me. And we're not even married anymore, okay? I said, trying to keep my voice calm. What? What are you talking about? Eric looked confused and angry. I submitted the divorce papers you left behind, so we're strangers now. Why should I keep renting a place for a stranger? Hold on, you're joking, right? You're basically unemployed. You'd be in trouble without me, he said, trying to sound like he was still in control of the situation. Don't make me laugh. When did I ever say that? I replied, feeling a mixture of frustration and relief. Eric was caught off guard and didn't know what to say. He stammered, trying to find the right words. Taking the opportunity to release my pent-up frustration, I continued. You've looked down on me all this time. I'm not the unemployed or jobless person you think I am. I didn't cheat on you. I was traveling abroad for work to find products for my customers. If you can't believe that, fine. But just so you know, I'll never forgive you. Well, wait a minute. Your online store, it's not like sales can just go up like that, he said, still trying to argue. I've been working hard for the past 5 years. You don't know anything about what I do, and you didn't even try to understand. You kept making assumptions and treating me like I was worthless. 5 years? He asked, clearly surprised. Yes, 5 years. Just so you know, I've been making many times more money than you. You looked down on me and belittled me. I don't want a marriage like this. You can live a miserable life on your own for all I care. Eric stood there speechless. He didn't know how to respond. I could see the realization starting to dawn on him that he had been wrong about me all along. But it was too late for regrets. You've always tried to make me feel small and unimportant. I continued, feeling a weight lifting off my shoulders as I spoke. You never supported me or my dreams. All you cared about was being in control and making yourself feel superior. Wait, let's talk about this, he finally said, his voice softer now. I didn't realize how serious you were. It's too late for that, Eric. You made your choice when you left those divorce papers and decided to treat me like I didn't matter. I'm moving on and I'm not looking back. But we were married. We have a history, he said, still trying to hold on to something. History is just that. History. We can't live in the past. You made it clear you didn't respect me or value our relationship. I'm done trying to make things work with someone who doesn't care about me. Eric looked like he wanted to say something, but he didn't. He just stood there, looking defeated and unsure of what to do next. I felt a sense of closure, knowing that I had finally stood up for myself and made a decision that was best for me. Goodbye, Eric, I said, hurrying to leave. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, but I won't be a part of it." As I walked away, I felt a mixture of relief and sadness. It wasn't easy to end things this way, but I knew it was the right decision. I had finally taken control of my life and my future. It was time to start a new chapter, free from the negativity and control that had held me back for so long. I took a deep breath and looked forward to the new opportunities and challenges that lay ahead, feeling stronger and more confident than ever before. I hung up the phone, deleted Eric's contact information, and blocked all ways for him to get in touch with me. It seemed he finally realized how many people were using my online store and how successful I had become. He even heard about my success through mutual friends. One day, he showed up at my parents' house, but I had no desire to see him or talk to him anymore. My dad turned him away at the door. Apparently, Eric's own parents found out about how badly he treated me and kicked him out of their house. Now I heard he is renting an apartment near his job and spends his time just going back and forth between home and work alone. As for me, I decided to stay with my parents for a while. Thanks to my job, I can work from anywhere, and that is a real blessing. My parents' house is quite old and needs some fixing up, so I am planning to start renovations soon. I'm confident that my online store will continue to grow and thrive. Living at my parents' house gives me the freedom to focus on my business without worrying about anyone else. I can travel abroad whenever I need to find new products for my store. Even though I now have a divorce on my record, I don't regret choosing to follow my dreams over staying in a toxic marriage. I plan to keep working hard and repay the kindness of the people who have supported me along the way. Every day, I get to work in a peaceful environment, free from the negativity that used to surround me. I can finally concentrate on expanding my business and exploring new opportunities. My parents have been incredibly supportive, and their encouragement has been a huge help. I'm planning to use some of the money I've earned from my store to renovate their house and make it more comfortable for them. The online store is doing great. I've expanded my product range and attracted more customers, which has helped increase sales significantly. I'm excited about the future and all the possibilities that lie ahead. Without the burden of a controlling partner, I feel more empowered and ready to take on new challenges. I've also reconnected with old friends who have been supportive and encouraging. They're happy to see me doing well and pursuing my passions. It's been refreshing to spend time with people who genuinely care about me and my happiness. Traveling has become a big part of my life now. I often go abroad to find unique products for my store. These trips have not only helped my business, but also allowed me to see the world and experience new cultures. It's something I always dreamed of doing, and now it's a reality. Looking back, I realize how important it was to put myself and my dreams first. Staying in a relationship that didn't support my goals would have only held me back. The decision to move on wasn't easy, but it was the best thing I could have done for myself. I'm proud of the progress I've made and the person I've become. The road ahead is full of potential, and I'm eager to see where it takes me. My focus now is on growing my business, taking care of my parents, and enjoying the freedom to live life on my own terms. I'm excited about the future and grateful for the opportunities that lie ahead. Hi there, my name's Nancy. I'm 21 years old. 3 years ago, I married the love of my life. Everything seemed to be going great. Even though my husband is Spanish, we didn't have many problems, except for the language barrier. To show my love, I decided to learn Spanish so I could talk better with him and his family. That's how much I loved him. I was doing this in secret. Johnson, my husband, and Mary, my mother-in-law, didn't know I was learning Spanish. Not only was I learning, but I got pretty good at it. I knew that if I was in Spain, I could manage. You might be wondering, if I'm so good at Spanish, why doesn't my husband know? Well, I was a bit shy. It can be scary trying to speak a new language, especially with people you're close to. But I decided it was time to stop hiding. I needed to speak Spanish with both my husband and my mother-in-law. After all, I learned to make communication easier, right? Well, it's a good thing I didn't start speaking Spanish right away, because I found out some surprising information one day that led to a series of unfortunate events. Hello, Mama. How are you, my son? Thank you for inviting me over this lovely Sunday afternoon. It was our pleasure, Mom. Hello, Mama. Hello, my daughter. How are you? Thank you so much for including me. Oh, hush, you know you're always wanted and welcome here. I brought some croissants and how do you Americans say, bagels? Yes, bagels and croissants for our afternoon tea. Oh, how lovely. Thank you so much. Come and sit, Mama. The food will be ready soon. Did she prepare the food? No, I did most of the prep. Don't worry. Oh, thank God. Hearing this, I wondered what she meant by that, but I was too shy to ask. How strange, Mary always seemed to like my cooking. Why was she saying those things? At the time, I thought maybe she just wanted to eat food made by her son. That day, maybe she wanted to taste food that reminded her of old times. Then I heard her say, I hate her cooking. Why did you invite me here instead of taking me to a cafe so we could avoid her, Mom? We agreed to speak in English, so Nancy doesn't feel left out, remember? Oh, forgive me, my sweet daughter. I was just saying that the food looks so good. I was surprised to learn that my son made it. Oh, I wish it was you who made it. I love your cooking. At this point, I was confused. How could she say such awful things in Spanish and then lie to my face in English? I thought I might have misunderstood, but I had a plan to confirm what I heard. Oh, please don't worry. You should never feel ashamed to speak your native tongue. Go right ahead. I'll be fine. I wanted to catch what she was saying, so I planned to use the Google Translate app to record her and make sure I understood correctly. We all sat at the table, getting ready to eat, and what came next shocked me to the core. I want us to discuss our plan. The time is approaching. It's literally tomorrow, Johnson. You have to be serious. The app, along with my Spanish knowledge, confirmed there was some plan going on, but I didn't know what it was. Mama, not now. I said I would handle it. What are you going to tell her, Nancy darling? Please pass me the sugar. She doesn't know anything about the plan. I was just going to tell her that I would be out of town. Out of town? What for? What was going on? I was so confused. I was constantly looking down at my phone to see what the app was translating. I think they assumed I wasn't paying attention and became less careful with their words, which was good for me as I was learning their true feelings. She's not too smart. Look at her, glued to her phone. We can talk about this now, okay, Mama? Fine. What do you want to discuss? The plane is leaving at 2:00 p.m. Are you sure you'll be able to escape her then? Escape me? What for? I was so confused, but I stayed calm and pretended not to understand so I could plan my next move. Yes, Mama, I know. I will do what needs to be done. I know how important this is. It is extremely important. If your great-uncle doesn't see us tomorrow, he will give the house to someone else, like your cousin or your aunt. We can't let that happen. No one needs to know about this house. Oh, Mama, you're so funny. Don't worry. I just said that in English so she doesn't suspect what we're talking about. Nancy. Yes, oh, sorry, my love. I was just asking who made this delicious tea. It's splendid. Oh, that would be your talented son. I'm afraid I'm not as good as he is when it comes to these things. Oh, darling, your food is amazing. Amazingly terrible, Mom. She'll catch you. She can't catch me. She's too stupid to understand us. I don't know, Mom. She obviously understands some basics. Let's see, Nancy. How much Spanish do you know? At this moment, I knew I had to lie. I said I didn't know much, so they would keep exposing themselves, and I could keep learning their true colors. How I managed to stay calm while being insulted still amazes me. I guess I knew it was more important to handle this situation than to get emotional. Right then, I said, "Oh, I'm still very bad at Spanish. I only know the typical things like buenos dias and como te llamas. But that's it." "Oh, that simply won't do, darling. You should learn some more Spanish." "Yes, ma'am, I will." "Well, it's a good thing for Johnson and me, as we can gossip about you. I'm just, how do you say, kidding with you, mi niño. We would never do that to you." "Are we doing it right now?" "Yes, which makes this extra funny." They laughed, and I kept using Google Translate. I also checked other apps, websites, and forums to see if what they were saying was correct. I got about 99% confirmation from these sources. Now that I knew they clearly didn't like me and were making fun of me, I had to gather as much information as possible. Even though their insults were hurting me, the next thing I heard shattered my resolve. As I was saying, this house is extremely important. No one can know about this house. Okay, we need to be the only ones knowing because we could make a lot of money. We can't lose this opportunity. I'm so glad we're doing this. It's a good thing we didn't tell my wife because I don't want to share the spoils. Me neither. Everything needs to go smoothly. Your great-uncle Jack said that whoever contacts him first about this issue will inherit the mansion. So we need to go there physically before anyone else and start working on remodeling and improving the house. I can't wait to have a house in New Hampshire. This is where I'll go to escape my wife and my life here in Mississippi. Sometimes I can't stand her. You know, you're still young, way too young to be married to someone like her. Come and live with me in New Hampshire. You can enjoy your youth with women and booze, have a good time, and then settle down when you're ready. Let's leave this place. Honestly, Mama, I think you're right." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt tears welling up. "Excuse me, what's wrong? Is everything okay?" "Yes, I just need to get something from the kitchen." I couldn't listen to them anymore. I needed to collect myself and not make a scene. How could they say those awful things with me right there in the room? Did they have no shame? I was so upset I began pacing up and down the kitchen. And then I saw my mother-in-law's purse sitting on the counter. I decided to look inside and take her phone. Luckily, it was unlocked. I opened her WhatsApp and sent Uncle Jack's number to my phone. I quickly deleted the text from her phone, so it looked like nothing happened. It felt like I was acting on instinct. I didn't know why I did it, but I was glad because I was now planning to get back at them. I returned to the dining room where the conversation was still going on. They seemed to be talking about the same thing. So tomorrow we leave for vacation. I think it's well-deserved because of all the hard work we've been doing. I second that. We deserve this break. Is everything okay? Yes, honey, we were just talking about the weather and how it's a perfect day to go relax somewhere. Would you like us to do that maybe not today? See, no, okay. When would you like to go then, maybe tomorrow? Both Mary and Johnson froze slightly. I was looking for their reaction and noticed it. I don't think tomorrow will be possible. I asked Scene to help me with some things around the house. Oh, what things? Why is she asking so many questions? Just to move things around. I can help too if you like." "That won't be necessary. See how nosy she is being? I don't like it one bit. Do you see why you have to leave this place?" "Don't worry, Mama, I've got this handled." I still managed to keep a smile despite knowing what they were saying. I was looking forward to my plan for revenge. I continued recording their conversations until the very end to make sure I had all the details. As I mentioned before, my Spanish was getting pretty good, but I still wanted to make sure I got the right information. That night, I snuck away to the bedroom and went to the office to do some more investigating. I replayed the audio, and sure enough, my doubts about my accuracy were gone. From this whole ordeal, I learned that there was a vacation planned for tomorrow to go and claim a house from Great Uncle Jack, and that these people apparently hated me and were planning to leave. A bonus piece of information I got was when I went to the kitchen to pace. I had left my phone, which was still recording, in the room with my husband and mother-in-law, and I managed to pick up some more useful information. The conversation consisted of Mary asking Johnson about his computer password because she wanted to change some aspects of their flight. I managed to get the password and flight details. I must have hit the jackpot. I logged into Johnson's computer, and sure enough, there were flight details on the website where he booked the tickets. Feeling very sneaky and devious, I may or may not have changed their flight details, pushing their flight to the day after tomorrow. This was just phase 1 of my plans. There was a lot more to come. Since I had sent myself Great Uncle Jack's number, I was ready to do what I needed to do. "Hello, Uncle Jack. It's Nancy." "Oh, hello, darling. How are you doing? Is everything okay?" "Well, no, not really." I went into great detail, explaining what had happened that day. I even sent him the audio recording as proof, because without it, I doubt he would have believed me. We cut the call so he could listen to the voice recordings, and we talked again after. After he finished listening, wow, I don't even know what to say. How could Mary and Johnson do this? They were such sweet and innocent people when they were younger. How could they do this to you? To me? I know it's a lot to take in. It was shocking to me, too. You have indeed improved your Spanish. Well done. Thanks, Jack, but now that we know this, what do we do? Well, obviously, they're not going to get the house. That's a fact. After hearing all of this, there is no way that I would never give such a valuable and honorable gift to people who plan to ruin it with their evilness and foolishness. Okay, I get it. It's your house, and you have every right to do what you want with it. Yes, I do. From now on, I will ignore their calls. Let's see how they feel about that. Thanks again for bringing this to my attention. You are a good and kind-hearted person, Nancy. Please don't let the ugliness of this world change you. Thank you for your time and willingness to listen. Hearing what you heard today couldn't have been easy. I applaud you for your strength. Please take care, Uncle Jack. You too. Love, good night. With that, I knew I had secured the downfall of both Mary and Johnson. Now that everything was set, I just had to wait for the right moment to make my move. When I got back to the bedroom, Johnson was still fast asleep. It hurt to know that my husband, whom I love dearly, would treat me this way. I didn't know he felt all those things, and maybe if we had talked, we could have found a solution. But he chose to be deceitful. I took his phone and turned off his alarm. Without it, he would surely oversleep, and that's exactly what happened. I packed my things and went to a hotel for the night. I couldn't stay in the house with someone like that. The next day, absolute chaos ensued. I'm sure Jan woke up to 100 missed calls from his mother and was frantically packing because he hadn't packed the day before. I suspect this because I got a call from him at 1 p.m. Where the hell are you? Why didn't my alarm go off? And why aren't you here? Oh, I decided to take a little vacation day for myself. Oh, that's nice. A little heads up would have been appreciated, though. Yeah, likewise. Seen what? What do you mean? Anyways, that doesn't matter. I'm running late for my flight. I mean, my meeting with Mom. Why are you in such a hurry? I'm sure she wouldn't mind you being a little bit late. You don't understand. Anyway, it's fine. I won't be home tonight and tomorrow night. I've got a lot I need to do. See you later. Before I could even respond, he hung up. I'm pretty sure he was so overwhelmed that he didn't even check the proper details of his ticket, which I had changed to the next day. Through the Find My iPhone app, I saw that he made his way to the airport. Imagine waking up, rushing out of the house with only minutes to spare to make it to your flight, just to find out that it had been canceled. I'm sure he was moving like a madman up and down that airport. I could almost see him frantically checking his phone, realizing the flight details were wrong. Suddenly, I received a call from Mary. What have you done? What do you mean, Mary? Drop the act. I know you tampered with our flight. If by tamper you mean change the date, then yes, that's exactly what I did. Why would you do that? I was trying to help you guys out. Didn't you say you wanted John's help with moving some stuff around? I noticed that you had the flight booked for today, the same day John was supposed to help you. So I decided to change some things. You're welcome. Johnson, come and talk to your wife before I reach through the phone and strangle her. Johnson grabbed the phone. Listen here, Nancy. I don't know what you've done, but whatever it is, stop it right now. Uncle Jack still isn't answering his phone. Try again, Mary said, her voice shaking with frustration. He isn't answering his phone because he doesn't want to speak with you too, I replied calmly. You understand us? Johnson asked, sounding shocked. Every last word. But how? I've been practicing, I said, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. I've been learning Spanish so I could communicate better with you and your mom. But now I see it also helped me uncover your plans. Johnson's face went pale. You knew all along? Yes, I heard everything. Your plans to leave me, to claim the house without me knowing. I heard it all. Johnson and Mary were silent. I could hear their heavy breathing over the phone, the shock and fear evident in their silence. So what now? Johnson finally asked. Now you deal with the consequences of your actions, I said. I already spoke to Uncle Jack. He knows everything. You won't be getting that house. But Nancy, you don't understand, Johnson pleaded. We had no choice. We needed that house. You had a choice, I said firmly. You could have been honest with me. Instead, you chose to deceive me. Now you have to live with the consequences. There was another long silence. Then Mary spoke, her voice trembling. Nancy, we're sorry. We didn't mean for it to go this far. It's too late for apologies, I replied. You made your bed, now you have to lie in it. I hung up the phone and took a deep breath. It was done. I had exposed their plans and ensured they wouldn't get the house. I felt a sense of relief, but also a deep sadness. The man I loved, the family I thought I was a part of, had betrayed me. But I knew I had to move on. I packed my things and checked out of the hotel. I decided to stay with a friend for a while until I figured out my next steps. As I walked out of the hotel, I felt a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, relief, but most of all, a sense of empowerment. I had stood up for myself and taken control of the situation, and now I was ready to start a new chapter in my life, free from deceit and betrayal. I told you, Mama. I told you she might hear us. So that means yesterday you heard everything? Yep. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to divorce your good-for-nothing son and leave you two to deal with each other. How blessed. Stay. Oh, and next time you want to talk about someone with them right there in the room, make sure they don't understand what you're saying. Have a nice life. I hung up before they could respond. I was done with their nonsense. Later that day, I got a call from Uncle Jack. Hello, dear. How are you? I'm a bit upset. I just had an ugly fight with John and Mary, and now I'm getting a divorce from him. I'm so sorry that things turned out this way, Nancy. It's part of life, I guess. How are things on your end? Well, I finally spoke to them and gave them a piece of my mind. They are not happy. What did you say to them? I told John that he's an idiot for treating you the way he did, and told Mary that she's evil for roping her son into her schemes. I also told them that I have given you the house. You what? Yes, dear, the mansion is yours. Even if you get a divorce from John, it's all yours, and you can share it with whomever you please. I don't know what to say, Jack. It's too much. I wanted this house to go to someone kind and compassionate, but also tough and strong when needed. That's exactly who you are. A house is the least I could do after all the stress and turmoil those two put you through. The house is yours. Take it. After that call, I felt a strange mix of emotions. I had managed to distance myself from two toxic people, and on top of that, I have been given a multi-million-dollar mansion. It felt surreal, like something out of a movie, but it was real and it was happening to me. The next few days were a whirlwind. I moved my belongings into the mansion and started to make it my own. Every room, every corner became a testament to my resilience and strength. I decorated the house with a sense of newfound freedom and pride. I was no longer bound by the deceit and betrayal of Johnson and Mary. This house, this beautiful mansion, was a symbol of my victory over their treachery. As expected, Mary and Johnson were furious. They sent me constant threats, trying to intimidate me into giving up the house. But I stood my ground. Each time they sent a threat, I responded with a picture of a different part of the house, reminding them that it was mine, not theirs. I wanted them to see what they had lost, to feel the sting of their own actions. Revenge never felt so sweet. One evening, as I was sitting in the grand living room surrounded by the opulence of the mansion, I reflected on everything that had happened. I thought about how much I had loved Johnson, how I tried to learn Spanish to communicate better with him and his family. I remembered the hurtful things they had said about me, their plans to leave me out of their lives. It had been a painful journey, but I had come out stronger on the other side. I received another call from Uncle Jack. Hello, dear. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. I'm doing well, Jack. Thank you for everything. The house is beautiful. I'm glad you like it. You deserve it after everything you've been through. I appreciate that. It means a lot to me. You know, Nancy, I've been thinking. Maybe you should consider staying in Spain for a while. You could use a change of scenery, and it might help you heal. That's a good idea, Jack. I think I will. Thank you for the suggestion. As I hung up the phone, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The future was uncertain, but I knew I had the strength to face whatever came my way. I had overcome betrayal and heartbreak, and I had emerged victorious. This mansion was not just a house. It was a symbol of my resilience, my strength, and my ability to overcome any obstacle. In the end, I realized that the best revenge was living well. I had a beautiful home, a supportive family in Uncle Jack, and a bright future ahead of me. Mary and Johnson could stew in their own bitterness and regret, but I was moving forward with my life. And that I knew was the greatest revenge of all.